Okay, so now we want to find the price per pound of each of these cheeses. And certainly, in order to do that, the biggest piece of information that we need is, how many ounces. We need to know how many ounces are in a pound. Hopefully, many of you know this. I suspect that some of you don't. 1 pound actually equals 16 ounces. Pat yourself on the back if you knew that. Shame on you if you didn't. No, not really that big of a deal. But now, in the previous example, we figured out how much 1 ounce of each of these costs. So we could just take these and multiply by 16 to find out how much 16 ounces, which would be 1 pound, would cost. But I'm going to show you a more direct route so you don't really have to figure out the unit price first. So what I'm going to do is, let's go blue. The cheddar is $4.99. Well, first of all, I'm going to call that 5, just to make my calculations easier. It's so close to 5, we may as well just make it 5. Now, again, because I don't feel like working with a calculator right now. So $5 divided by 8 ounces. Now, what I'm going to do is remember the identity property of multiplication. I'm going to, I'll write that down right here. Any number times 1 equals itself. Any number times 1 equals itself. So I'm going to implement that fact. I'm going to use the identity property of multiplication here. I'm going to multiply this ratio by 1. This ratio by 1. So I'm going to multiply it by, now, the units I'm looking for are dollars per pound. Those are the units I'm looking for. So I'd like to keep these units of dollars, but I need to change these ounces units to pounds units. So I'm going to create a fraction of 1 using this equivalence here. 1 pound and 16 ounces are the same. So I could write 1 pound divided by 16 ounces. And do you see, I hope, that 1 pound divided by 16 ounces, since 1 pound, the numerator, is equal to 16 ounces, the denominator, that this fraction, this ratio, equals 1. So multiplying by 1 will not change the value of the ratio. However, I did this on purpose. I made this mistake on purpose so that you would see what happens. If I multiply 8 ounces times 16 ounces, I'm going to get whatever 8 times 16 is, 128. 128 ounces. I'll get units called square ounces, and that does not make any sense at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply instead by this ratio that equals 1. 16 ounces divided by 1 pound. 16 ounces divided by 1 pound, now that still equals 1. That equals 1 because the numerator and the denominator are equal. So I'm multiplying by 1, and multiplying by 1 doesn't change anything. So 5 times 16 is 50 plus 30 is 80. And 8 times 1 is 8. So we've got 80 divided by $8 per pound, and that is 10. $10 per pound. Now, hopefully you look back and say, well, gee, you could have just realized and yes, I know this. Um, if 8 ounces cost $5 and there are 16 ounces in a pound, then a pound is going to cost twice as much, $10. This is half a pound. If half a pound costs $5, then a whole pound is going to cost $10. And I would accept it if you wrote it this way. Most of the time you'll see it written like this. I despise the unit dollars because the unit comes before the number. It's kind of silly. But $10 per pound, you'll see it written that way usually. I would accept this for sure. Or you can write the word dollars if you want to. Alright, now let's go work on the Gouda. And I'm going to switch to green for the Gouda again, just because I can. Alright, the Gouda. Again, I'm going to... You can come in. I'm going to make that $5.99 just a 6, so it's much easier. And I'm going to multiply by the same ratio. 16 ounces divided by 1 pound. What's happening here, I forgot to point this out. The reason that the ounces unit disappears is because these ounces divided by ounces. The unit divided by itself, it's 1. It cancels itself out. Since I have ounces in the numerator and ounces in the denominator, they cancel each other out. So, I'm going to go ahead and get those ounces and those ounces cancel each other out, just like those ounces and those ounces cancel each other out. And that was the strategy for writing the ratio that way. And again, this equals 1. We're multiplying by 1, so we're not changing the value. Now, 6 times 16, 6 times 10 is 60, and 6 times 6 is 36, so that's 96. 96 divided by 9. 96 divided by 9, dollars. Oh gosh, it's ugly. Dollars per pound. 96 divided by 9. Well, I don't need a calculator for that either, because 90 divided by 9 is 10, and 6 is 2/3 of another 9, so that's 10 and 2/3. So, round to the nearest penny, it'll be $10.67, $10.67 per pound. And there you go. So you were using the identity property of multiplication to make this unit conversion. We're multiplying by 1. We're picking a strategic ratio of 1 so that the units that I need to cancel out do in fact cancel out.